Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome to the 40th episode of Trip Tales. This one feels celebratory for two reasons. First of all, when I started Trip Tales back in February of this year, 2024, I made it a goal to get to at least 10 episodes. And I thought if I could get to 20, then I'd be over the moon. So today we have doubled the original goal and we aren't slowing down. I'm having so much fun sharing all of your trip tales and trip fails, and I can't wait to keep them coming in 2025. Secondly, as a way to celebrate reaching 40 episodes, I thought it would be fun to relive my 40th birthday extravaganza, a girls' trip to the all-inclusive Atelier resort in Playa, Mujeres, Mexico. And this is not a solo episode. I have almost all the girls who joined me on this trip here and ready to share all the stories and their experiences from this trip. Before I introduce you to my girl gang, I have to thank last week's buymeacoffee.com supporter, Rosie. Rosie, with her travel agency, Ventures Valentina, bought me a coffee and wrote, "Just love your style of podcast. So informative for mamas." I happen to know that Rosie was an avid adventurous traveler before kids and now has a 2-year-old and is navigating how travel changes a lot when you become a parent. Rosie is actually the guest on next week's episode, which is going to be about a relaxing adults-only vacation to Secret Mall, which is about an hour south of Cancun. You have to tune in if you are craving rest, relaxation, and if you love a beautiful beach and sea turtles. But today, we aren't going south of Cancun. We are going about 30 minutes north to the Playa Mujeres area, which is beautiful, lush, and tranquil, removed from the hustle and bustle of the Cancun party zone. So it's time to introduce my girls. We are going to do a rapid fire get to know you with all of you. First, we are going to take it back to high school. I have my high school besties here, Katie and Danae, who I spent my years at Carmel High School in Indiana with. We will start with Danae because some of you may already know her from episode 36 when she shared about her trip fail to beaches, Turks and Caicos. So Danae, for those who have not listened to that episode, share about where you live, what you do, about your family, and one thing you're excited to talk about this trip.
Hi, Kelsey. My name is Danae, as you said. I live in Franklin, Tennessee, with 2 children and a lovely husband. I work in marketing, and I'm thrilled to be here for a trip tales, not a trip fails.
Amazing. And the other high school bestie, Katie, this was a joint 40th birthday celebration for Katie too, because my birthday's in January, Katie's birthday is in March. So we took the trip in between the two in February. So it was Katie and Kelsey's birthday extravaganza. Okay, Katie, tell everyone where you live, what you do, about your family, and what you're looking forward to talking about.
Hey everybody, I'm Katie and I live in the Chicagoland area with my husband and my 2 crazy boys, Brady and Calvin. I really feel lucky that my best friend is a travel extraordinaire and actually basically planned the whole trip for us, and I just kind of went along for the ride for my 40th. And I think probably the one thing that I'm really excited to talk about today is just the grounds of the place and how wonderful the hotel was.
We also had college represented on the trip with my bestie, Sarah, who was going to try to dial in from work, but she works as a nurse in a hospital, and I just think it's too busy for her to dial in today, but we might get a surprise appearance from her. And finally, we have family on the line. So first, I have my sister, Allie. Allie was previously on episode 14, where she and I shared tips for flying with babies and toddlers. So welcome, Allie. Tell everyone where you live, what you do, about your cute family, and what you're looking forward to talking about.
Hi, everyone. I live in Boise, Idaho. I have 2 little girls, and I'm married. I work in design. And I'm excited to share about, this was my first time actually going to Mexico. So the travel experience into the airport and like the taxi and all that was a bit much. So that would be a good thing to touch on.
Yes. And sticking with family, we have my sister-in-law, Whitney, here, who is married to my husband, Joe's brother. So Whit, tell everyone where you live, what you do, about your family, and what you're looking forward to talking about.
Yes, I live in Lebanon, Tennessee, right down the road from Kels. I'm a college professor, athletic trainer by trade. Have two small children. At the time on the trip, I was pregnant with one, so I can't wait to tell all the good things of how it's like to be pregnant at an all-inclusive.
Pros and cons. So let's talk about how we landed on Atelier. For my 40th, I knew I wanted a girls' trip and I wanted it to be easy. My friends are all super busy working mamas, and I didn't want anyone to have to lift a finger. I wanted it to be paid for in advance, hence an all inclusive. And I kind of love a trip to a resort where all you have to do is switch between beach and pool and eat and drink. Whereas my husband prefers a bit of adventure, so I figured this type of trip would be best as a girls' trip. So I started texting everyone and getting general interest and availability for dates, and we landed on February 2nd, 2023, February 2nd through 5th. So we went for 4 days, 3 nights. Pretty much everybody pounced on the idea and said yes in under 30 seconds, and this is why I love you guys. So I started working with a travel agent, Rachel Stovall with Haven Escapes. I will put her information in the show notes since she's literally already planned this entire trip for a group. I told her what I wanted. I wanted it high-end-ish feeling, but still slightly affordable, fairly good food, and in the Cancun area because that airport is easy for a lot of people to fly into from a lot of different cities. I remember my first choice had been Unico, which is south of Cancun and gets great reviews. But even though I started this process 5 months in advance, which I guess isn't that far in advance, but I started planning this in August, Unico was completely sold out, so it wasn't even an option. If anyone listening has been to Unico and would like to share about that resort on a future episode, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com. I looked back at my text with my travel agent, and she had shared her favorite all-inclusives in the Cancun area, which just if you're considering some, it was Hyatt Zilara, Unico, which was sold out, Secrets Maroma, and Atelier Playa Mujeres. I also found a text where I asked her about any other options outside of Mexico because my mom had started sending me articles about the Mexican drug cartel trying to dissuade me from going to Mexico altogether. And I know my mom wasn't the only one worried about us going to Mexico. So she sent me a few more in the Bahamas and Dominican Republic, and I dove into researching them all. After my initial research, I told her I was most interested in Atelier, and she got busy making room reservations for all of us. We decided to do 2 to a room to cut the price in half for each room. And the travel agent, Rachel, was really great about sending out individual links for each room and our airport transfers so that we could each pay for a room and then Venmo our roommate as needed. I thought it was affordable-ish for a group. I cannot remember what we paid. Some of you guys might have it. I looked high and low, but those links were broken that we used. So currently, if we went 5 months from now, the current rate is about $850 a night. So we split that in half, and maybe it was about $425 a night. But if anybody remembers,
I think when it was all said and done, I think it was like probably a little over 1,000 a person, like $1,100 a person. And that's with like extras. I mean, for example, Danae and I shared a room, so I think we kind of like split a couple things or anything that wasn't inclusive. We kind of added it all up, and at the end, I think it was about just slightly over $1,000 a person, which I thought
a
was fairly
night or
reasonable.
total?
Total together for the whole trip, which
That's
which
like
would be
cheap. I love that this is like so my travel MO. I'm like, I just book stuff and I'm like, I don't really know what it costs. And you guys were like, we know what it costs.
From my perspective, knowing that people were coming from all over the country and we all had to get to the Cancun airport, it was really easy to work with the travel agent. We gave her our passport numbers, our travel itinerary. She helped pull everything together so we knew who could share rides to the resort together and when to expect everyone. Whereas if we were doing that on our own, we are capable of doing that and we completely could do that. But she really helped streamline not only the booking process, but the organization of getting to the resort, which I found super helpful.
I think that's a great point. I feel like if you're trying to do a group trip, 100% go with a travel agent. It's all they do all day. It's what they think about all day. They know all the transfer companies. And so I agree that it was really helpful to have like a third party. And we could also kind of like text her if we had questions and all that kind of stuff. So definitely reach out to Rachel. Let's talk about getting there. The day before and like the day that we were to fly, a huge portion of the Midwest and Southeast got a massive ice storm. Leading up to our Thursday morning flight, the Nashville people were freaking out because Nashville does not handle ice well, and like an ice storm was coming. But in all of this, we did learn a really good lesson that I want to share about. So some of us Nashville people were connecting through Houston and then going to go on to Cancun. And the weather forecast was not looking good. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if we like miss a night or two of this short 3-night trip? So we had the bright idea that if we could just get to Houston another way before this ice storm got too bad, we could hop on the second leg of our flight and still get to our vacation on time. So we were thinking about booking a cheaper Southwest flight earlier in the week, just staying at a random hotel or even at the airport and just getting on that Houston flight. My friend Sarah, my college bestie, who's not on the call, but her husband even got on the phone with Southwest for us and was trying to like navigate this whole thing. And what we learned, which is really important and somehow I never knew up until this point, 40 years old and traveled a ton of places, you cannot hop on a second leg of a flight. Even though you have a connection and you've got your flight number and you've got a boarding pass, if you miss the first flight, you cannot get on the second leg. So that's just like a PSA because that would have really sucked if we got to Houston and felt so prepared and then tried to get on that flight and they were like, you can't get on this flight. We would have been royally screwed. There's a word for it that I'm forgetting right now. It's like point of origin or something like that, where like that is the most important part of your travel. And it gets real sketchy if you just try to like hop on flights at different times. So just know that. So us Nashville folks had to sit tight and the ice storm came. I have photos of that morning of pure ice coating every branch of my bushes as I got in the car at like 4 a.m. to drive to the Nashville airport. But by some miracle, our flight took off. But I think we did all that de-icing forever. And then, Whit, do you remember, didn't we have to sprint in Houston and run directly on the plane and we like barely made it?
Yes, I remember texting Sarah because as we passed her from first class,
She was in first
she got
class.
to the connection first. And we were texting her like, please tell them to hold it. And we did. We made a complete sprint. And I want to remember correctly that it was on the same terminal as we were getting off.
It was like across the way. It was like across the
way.
hall, which was like insane. That never happens. We like literally just walked across and got on our flight, which was,
right.
That was a 40th birthday miracle.
And literally we were the last two and everybody started clapping as soon as we got on that flight.
Yeah. And like Whit mentioned, one of the best parts about this is that my bestie, Sarah from college, her husband booked her first class flights for this whole trip. So my birthday, I'm walking past her waving as she's sitting there with like her mimosa and she's like, enjoy the back. It was like Bridesmaids with Kristen Wiig where I'm like, can I come up and like have a little bite of your breakfast? And then I also remember, Whit, it was crazy turbulent. Like the whole time, I don't know if other people's flights were like this, literally never stopped, which is like doesn't really happen. Constant turbulence. So we were like, well, Whit was pregnant, probably about to barf. And we were like holding on for dear life and had like one protein bar in our bags. And Sarah was texting us photos of like her mimosa, her Bloody Mary, and her like full hot breakfast. And she's like, I'm stressed about the turbulence. And we were like, give us a bite of your breakfast.
Well, and to add another layer, remember across the aisle was a pilot. Remember he was dressed in, and we just kept looking at him.
Like, is he worried?
Yeah, right. And I think it was at one point he stood up and started walking to the front, and we were both like, "Is he about to take over? Like, should we really be worried?"
Yeah, it was very turbulent. Was everybody else's flights okay?
I remember the same storm even affected me all the way out in Boise because one of my friends here was also going to Cancun the exact same day as me. Different airline, but the same day. And her flight, because of all of the crazy stuff that was going on where you guys were, all these flights were getting canceled. So hers actually got canceled and she had to like miss her entire trip. She couldn't get on another one. So I was like freaking out because I was like, am I going to be able to make it? And I feel like I also was like something weird with the connecting flight. I can't remember, but I feel like
you like barely made it, and we all had been there for a minute, like exploring a restaurant and the bars, and you rolled in at like 6 p.m. and you were like,
I was definitely way late.
We arrived in Cancun along with like 4 other planes at the exact same time, so customs and immigration was a nightmare for us. Note, the Cancun airport does have global entry kiosks, and I watched all these people breeze on through that massive room of a billion people herded together. And I vowed to never fly into that airport again without global entry because I was so jealous of those people. There was like no rhyme or reason to any lines. It was just a huge glob of people. And we were like, how do we get, we just kind of waited for over an hour. Katie, I know you breezed through, but then your bag took like an hour.
Yeah, I think just any airport. I've flown into a couple in Mexico, and they're all kind of the same. They're all very crowded. If you don't have any VIP access, like clear or international entry or something like that, then you basically either get through customs pretty quickly, but then your bag takes about 2 hours. I think I was down in the baggage claim for about 2.5 hours. But it was fine because I got in first because I flew from Chicago, and so turbulence and wind and ice and everything, they were like, yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
And so I just got there pretty quickly, but the baggage took a while. And then once you do get in and get past all of that, then you just have to be very smart. And again, this is where Rachel was really great about directing us exactly where we should go to. But you have to be really smart about not getting caught up in people offering all these awesome advantages for while you're down there or extra things. And once you kind of tunnel vision through and get to your car, then it's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, every airport that I've flown into in Mexico usually is about a 2 hour transition time until I actually get to a car to then go to the hotel.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because Rachel drew us a map in our travel plans, and it was like this little arrow that was like, do not look up, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Do not even make eye contact with anybody until you see the sunlight in the sky. And we were like, oh my gosh. But then we got there, and there are all of these local companies kind of like yelling at you, trying to get you to use their cab company or their excursion company. And so it really was helpful kind of just to have that heads up to be like, just walk straight until you see people holding like professional signs with your names on them. And that's where we found our driver. And a lot of us did arrive around the same time. So we were able to share a transfer, which was really nice. Our transfer was great. I have a video of it, and it was just like a nice kind of black van with some leather-ish seats, water bottles, I remember, which was really nice. But Allie, since she was coming from like the West Coast, got in at a different time and had to make her way to the resort alone, which my mom really loved. And so we were like all tracking her location, and my mom's like, let me know the second she gets there. So Allie, how was your transfer alone?
Yeah, I do feel like the airport experience was a bit overwhelming. Knowing
Alone.
what the travel agent like told us for the heads up of like just keep your head down and ignore everybody till you get to where you're going was very helpful, because I think if I hadn't had that information, I would have been like totally lost and so confused, because people are just yelling at you from all directions, like take my car, and you're like, I don't know what I'm
I
doing.
have a car. Shut up.
So, and it took me a while to find my transfers cart. It was like all the way at the very end. And I kept having to ask people like, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. And finally I got it. And the car was really nice. It was like a nice big van, but it was kind of like a funny ride. I do remember it just being very like chaotic. The drive over there, it was like so much traffic, and there were cars or trucks just everywhere full of people all in the back of the truck drinking beer. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, where am I? And then the
Welcome
guy,
to Mexico, baby.
yeah, my driver was like, would you like a beer? And at first I was like, no, no, no. And then I was like, I mean, why not? I like popped a beer. I was like, I don't know who I'm with, where I'm going, but here we go.
I do remember that stretch in Cancun, that main road you drive on. There are like police cars and lights and like maybe some police officers with like automatic weapons. And you're a little like, huh. It's just, that's why mom was like, please don't go there. Did anyone else have reservations about going? I mean, I didn't have reservations about going to Mexico. I was like, let's do this. But did anyone have reservations, in all honesty?
I had slight reservations, but it was more because I was pregnant. Because I was like, I don't want to be a buzzkill on this trip, but I'm also like a fun time, and I can like hang even if I can't partake in all the things. So, I think I even like texted you like sidebar too of like, are you sure you're going with me going? Like I'm 4 months pregnant, but again, it was the perfect trip, even if you were pregnant.
Our travel agent had set us up with transfers through the company's Mayaland. That was the one that most of us took. And then Allie had Lomas. On Mayaland, we were not offered a beer. So maybe on Lomas, you get a little beverage on your drive. But those were both great transfer companies, and I'll put them in the show notes if you're trying to put this trip together by yourself. Okay, let's talk about arriving to the resort. Does anyone want to share their first impressions of pulling up and walking into the lobby?
It is absolutely beautiful when you walk into the resort. It is open air. You can see right through the lobby to the most beautiful blue water. It is very modern looking. There are statues and super high ceilings, and it has a really organic feel. If anybody's familiar with the One Hotel, it gave me a similar vibe as that. And you walk in right to the right, they welcome you and they give you a welcome drink and you start the check-in process. Initial impressions were really, really good. I was very impressed.
I remember walking in and just like Danae said, it feeling really grand and there were giant windows everywhere and it feeling really clean. There were plants everywhere, which was
Yes,
so, if
very
you're a plant
lush.
lover, it was very lush. All the hallways, the entrance, plants everywhere. And I think the main kind of like vibe of this hotel is, I mean, I think atelier means like art or artist or something,
Oh,
maybe in
I didn't know
French.
that. Look at you. The
Um,
artist knows.
and
Look.
so the whole thing is there's like all these art installations all over the resort, which was pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, Allie. Atelier is a workshop where an artist creates. It's basically like a studio, but it's a French word, and it's all about where artists make their work. How did we miss that on this entire trip? Did you know that the whole time, Allie?
Yeah, I think so. I did.
That's amazing. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense with the design.
I felt very safe right off the bat. Like again, like you were talking about after getting off of the main drag. I want to say I remember we pulled in and there's like this whole security point with gates, and then a really nice golf cart transferred us to the front, or maybe that was the transfer between the two or between the buildings.
I
But I
think we
remember just
pulled all the way up in our car, and
yeah,
then the golf cart, they wanted us to put our luggage on, which I remember we were a little like, are we going to see this again? But they took our luggage until our room was ready, maybe. I
yeah,
can't
that
remember.
sounds right.
Yeah.
I just remember right off the bat feeling like, oh, we're good. Like we're good here. Like, no worries.
Yeah. The word that I had written down was Zen. Like everything feels kind of like that Zen vibe with modern design, tall ceilings, floor to ceiling windows, and then so many lush plants everywhere. So it's definitely like kind of a showstopper lobby. Okay. There are 3 buildings at Atelier. And I had done tons of research, read all the Reddit threads. I knew that building 1 was where the lobby is and some restaurants. And it's a bit of a walk on a pretty wooded boardwalk through all these lush grounds out to the beach. I knew building 2 had the best location, right near the main pool and right near the main beach, very centrally located. And then I knew that everyone online said, whatever you do, don't stay in building 3. It's pretty far from everything. It does have its own like quiet pool and a couple restaurants, but it's kind of a hike to get anywhere or a golf cart ride that sometimes they're running to the main pool and beach. So we get there and they're like, welcome, ladies. We have you all in building 3. And we were like, no. And so we tried for a while to get somewhere else. And there was like no way. I think there was one way to be somewhere where we were going to be like on really different floors and we wanted to try to be on the same floor. And so we finally were just like, fine, we'll be in building 3. So just so you guys know, if I could do it again and I had my way, I do remember I asked the travel agent to let them know. It was kind of hard to like get in touch with Atelier. It's hard to like sometimes get in touch with these like resorts that are in other countries, but I think it was in our notes and it still like didn't work out. So it's kind of tough to like claim your building. So I feel like at the start of this, we need to rip the Band-Aid off and just kind of talk about the layout and staying in building 3. Does anyone have any thoughts to share? Go, Katie.
I would
If you
like
guys
to
could see Katie's face right now, it's not happy.
Okay, I would like to talk a little bit about the layout of this place. It is so lush. It is so beautiful. There are winding pathways between all this greenery. There are lizards and bearded dragons that roam free around the grounds. But I truly needed Moana, who is a wayfinder, to find my way around this hotel because there is barely any signage showing you where to go. While the buildings look different from the outside, If you are in the interior hallways of the buildings, they look exactly the same. And it is like a hallway of The Shining, only a lot prettier, where it's just like room, 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 room. And then at the very end, there's like one hidden staircase that maybe you can go down and it may lead you out to a bearded dragon, or it could lead you down a hallway to a club. I mean, that's truly kind of how this place is laid out. So, yes, it was very unfortunate that we were in building number three. And I want to point out one clear thing. If you are in building three, you need to think about how you're going to plan your days, because if you want to get to building one, it is a cool 10 to 15-minute walk at a brisk pace, which if you're in heat, you will be sweating. If you want to charter a golf cart to get there, the guys are pretty regular in how they run, but it's not always right there when you go down to the first floor of the building number three. The other thing I would like to mention is that I think that when you first check in, it would be really helpful if they actually they gave us like a very virtual version of a map. I think a printed out map for a place that is this large would have been very helpful to mark a couple of the places that maybe you have reservations at for dinner, or some of the more active pool areas. We were near a lot of the like chill pool areas, but let's be honest, we're a bunch of women in our 40s that are like without kids and drinking. So we were not chilling out by the pool. We were in the pool drinking the things. So I feel like, just a couple of those kind of tips and tricks would have been really helpful. I feel like I got a real healthy tour of the grounds because when we decided to go to the spa one day, I decided to share a locker with Danae because that made sense. We just had flip-flops and, maybe a quick change of clothes that I threw in there. For some reason, my spa treatment took an extra hour. I don't know if I booked something larger than everybody, or maybe I was in the ice bath for like an extra half hour, but I came out and nobody was there. And again, I'm with all the girls doing all the things, and I did not remember what locker I put my stuff in, nor did I remember the code that we decided together on.
This definitely did not have anything to do with all-inclusive beverages.
No, not at all. I was drinking mocktails with Whitney. So I can't get into the locker. And the other great thing I should mention is this is also very good for everyone to know. Your key is actually the bracelet that you wear. And so when you go to open your door for your hotel room, you basically swipe your wrist and then the door opens. So it's really great. So I had my key, but again, I think we were in building one and I had to go to building three. Or I thought I was going to meet the girls down at the pool. Well, they weren't at the pool. And again, I'm in a bathing suit with a spa robe and those like really hard sandals that are supposed to massage your feet, but not when you're walking 5 miles around the grounds. I walked everywhere. I walked through a cocktail hour of a wedding in my bathing suit and a spa robe to try to get to the other building because they had things blocked off. And that one boardwalk along the beach blocked for cocktail hour. They're saying I do, and I'm saying I don't want to be doing this anymore. So,
and I feel like you didn't have your phone. Was that one of the big problems too?
I didn't have anything. So, and you can't just call somebody. I mean, and the grounds are so big. So I finally ended up back at building three. And the other thing I'll mention, and this is the other tough thing, every building has like a concierge or like a front desk kind of situation. Building three's hours must have been from 9 to 10 a.m. and that's it. The bar was open the whole time. So I just started drinking and waiting for a golf cart finally. But I roamed the grounds for about 2 hours and then finally found my friends who had been just enjoying the afternoon. And it was a funny story to tell, but I have to say that you really have to plan your trip a little bit because the grounds are so large. And if you stay in building one or two, I think it actually is a quite different experience because you can like zip over to things fairly quickly.
I remember you coming back from that and it like looked like you'd been through war. You had a massage, so your like hair is greasy. You were like,
Yes.
You guys, I've been walking for 2 hours. We
Yes.
finally found her.
My memory of that was that you actually didn't have a swimsuit on. It was like just your robe.
I actually did have a swimsuit on underneath because I'm not going to roll around in my 40s body in my swimsuit around the resort. But yes, it was kind of rough. And I kept passing other groups of women, or there was this group of guys that were there too. And they finally were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah."
You're like, "Can I just join your trip? Because I don't know where my trip went."
So no, all good. But yeah, it's kind of a thing. The grounds layout is kind of a thing.
Yeah. And actually, Danae, I remember this happening to you the first morning, maybe. You had gotten up early and you didn't bring your phone because you were a very present person on vacation and you like to like enjoy the things and the nature. But like, I think a tip for this trip is like bring your phone because you also went off. And then we had like been like, hey, we're all meeting at breakfast. I think it was that Suspiro, that main restaurant right at the main pool. And it was like 2 hours later, Danae finally rolled up and she was like, oh, hi, I've been looking for everybody walking around. I don't have my phone. So it is such a massive resort that you do want to try to keep your phone with you if at all possible. And I do think day one, when you get there, even though you're so tired of traveling, you just want to like jump into the all-inclusive bars and relax. You should really take a lay of the land. Or if Atelier is listening, maps, because we even asked for them at one point. I think we asked for a physical map. They didn't have it. And signage. We need like every single wall should have building 1 this way, building 2 this way, building 3 this, so that you can just like on a cruise ship, just know which direction you're going. Like you need some direction.
Absolutely. I would wake up early and go to the gym. And my friends are not exaggerating when they say everything starts to look exactly the same. And even finding your way from your room to the gym and then back, somehow it doesn't make sense. And you end up in a completely different spot and you cannot make your way back. So navigation was probably the hardest thing at this resort. It's beautiful, but it all looks exactly the same. So you get turned around very quickly. And when you even approach some staff members, so occasionally I would see the housekeeping staff, and I can speak Spanish decently, and I would ask them where to go. It's still like, it was almost like they couldn't articulate how to get back to where I needed to go. So just, doubling down on everything that you all are saying.
I remember, so being the pregnant one, I always woke up early just because I couldn't sleep in. And so I would always go get us beach chairs like on the beach. And the only 2 mile markers that I remember that I could keep myself straight was, I believe it was our building, the bottom floor, there was the bar, and then there was that amazing coffee little barista place. So I knew that I was in the right building if I found the good coffee place. And then somewhere between, it was either building 2 and 3 or either 1 and 2, there was like that gigantic chess, like human that you like move. And I was like, okay, I think I'm close to the beach once I pass the chess. So it is, you had to like, because their lack of signage, you had to like pick some type of mile marker so you knew like what direction you were going. But it was a hike to the beach too.
Hey, Trip Tales listeners, I'll keep this short. If you're loving the podcast, leaving a review or buying me a coffee is the quickest way to show your support. And it will ensure that these amazing trip stories keep coming. Leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast or buy me a coffee at the link in the show notes, and I'll literally do a happy dance when it comes through. Okay, back to the show. I remember like 3/4 of the way through our trip, so like a little too late, we discovered some secret stairway that like was our magical stairway to get to the next building. And we were like, oh, why is there not a sign there? But I still could never quite like get there. But when we found it, we were like, yes, there's our like secret stairway. And yes, that coffee bar in building 3, that is the bonus. It's a lovely coffee bar. They can make like actual different lattes and cappuccinos, and they have all these fun little treats. And that's the fun part about a all-inclusive is you're like, I'll take that little pastry and a macchiato. Thanks. Okay, let's talk about the rooms. I really loved the rooms and the bathrooms. Again, very zen vibes.
The rooms were really great. If you booked with more than one person, it was 2 queen beds, not 2 full beds, which I thought was really wonderful. And the bathroom was zen and also very large. So for 2 women getting together to, go to the beach or go out that night, you could both very comfortably be in the bathroom together and not be bumping into each other, which I thought was really great.
Yeah, it was fun getting ready in that bathroom because it was huge and modern. There was like a big rain shower and a huge soaking tub and tons of counter space. So you could like get ready together and kind of have like a fun little time.
I remember the room feeling really nice and spacious. And also each room had a really nice, pretty large balcony. So you could go out and like enjoy the views. We were in building 3, so the ocean was definitely further away for us, but you could still see it. And it was nice.
Yeah, and every balcony had two chairs, a little table, and like a big, beautiful plant. So, like Allie was saying, for all you plant lovers, like there was like real beautiful plants everywhere, like on your balcony, in your room. Definitely had that like modern Zen vibe and kind of just like a clean, minimalistic feel.
I thought it was really a really nice touch. Katie, I believe it was your husband that sent the flower spread or that was gorgeous. And it was through, I'm assuming it was through the hotel. It wasn't like an outside company that brought it in, maybe, but
Yes,
it was beautiful.
men listening, take a note here. It was Katie and Kelsey's birthday extravaganza, but only one of them received something beautiful. So, Katie, tell us how your husband, what you found. Tell us what you found in your room when you and Danae went in and how he accomplished that.
Yes, the hotel hooked it up for Darren. And it was funny. I walked in and I thought that either the group of girls or Kelsey had like put flowers in our room. And actually,
Actually, I think what happened, Katie, is you found your surprise and you came into my room and you go, "Oh my gosh, did you get your flowers too?" And I was
yeah,
like, "I did not."
that's what it was. And you're like, no, I have none of these flowers. What are you talking about? Yeah, the hotel did a really, really awesome job. Darren said he just contacted them directly and ordered 24 beautiful roses that were flanked with all these wonderful ferns. It was so, so pretty. And I do think that's another nice segue into just the hotel was great in working with trying to figure out if we wanted to pre-ship things or order special things for the room. There was a lot of great communication around that. But yes, they did a wonderful job delivering the flowers.
Such a fun surprise in your room. Another thing that's in all the rooms is a big, nice beach bag that you can use the entire trip. It's like a really good size, so you don't have to pack your own beach bag. You can use it the entire trip. We all used them quite a bit. And then if you love it, of course, you can take it and they'll charge you for it. But I think we all left them there. But it is just kind of a nice touch.
I remember one night we ordered room service to the room just because we could, because it was an all-inclusive and that seemed fun. And on our little tray when they delivered the food were like mini plants. And I remember like thinking it was like so cute and such a nice little touch.
You're right. I remember that too. Yeah, it is fun. Allie and I would order like a margarita pizza and two glasses of wine just because we could.
Also worth noting, in the rooms, there is a fully stocked mini bar, and they had snacks there and drinks, and they would restock it every day, which was lovely also, because if you wanted to just throw something in your beach bag and take it down with you or have a late night snack, it was always available, and it was part of the all-inclusive experience.
The other thing, I'd never unpack a suitcase on a trip. I'm literally just like living out of this. But for this trip, I had more dresses. And so one of the things that stood out to me from the rooms is we had great like storage for clothes if you wanted to hang things. Cause I feel like that's always kind of a kicker wherever you go is like the closet's like teeny tiny. But I feel like there was a ton of space. Like I remember me and Sarah, we literally emptied our entire suitcase, put shoes and bags and dresses. So the storage for like clothing and accessories was great too.
Right after we arrived and like kind of unpacked in our rooms and kind of got ourselves situated, we had a fun little mini 40th birthday party in one of our rooms, which was really fun. We had music playing and people had brought some fun goodies. So I just wanted to share some of those if you are planning like a 40th trip. We'll put all the links in the show notes. But we had sun hats with everyone's name on it, which was such a hit. They were big floppy sun hats with our names in cursive, which made for a super cute picture by the swim up bar, which I'll post a photo of. And we got compliments and they'd be like, "Oh, there's the girls with the sun hat." So it was just kind of like a fun little statement. Sarah, who's not on the call, had gotten Turkish towels made for everybody with everybody's names on them and really funny drink stirrers from Etsy that had me and Katie's faces on them with sombreros. So you could like put them in your drinks. We had some refillable rose gold cups that could be used for coffee, water, or adult beverages. Some sarongs from Amazon that you could throw on over your swimsuit. And then Danae had brought trucker hats for Katie and I that said 40 never looked this good, which I particularly loved because I love a trucker hat and I wore it like the entire time. So we had a little dance party in our room, which was like, they were so spacious, these rooms. And then we got on to the restaurants. So we will talk food. Before we jump into food, I just wanted to we talked a lot about the resort grounds, but I just want to give a quick lay of the land as an overview outside of how big it is. So by us, back in building 3, we had a super cute coffee bar, which we've touched on, a quiet pool with kind of like a water feature, like a waterfall feature, a swim up bar with concrete bar stools. which was great. And then a nice long path that we've talked about with golf carts running on it to make it all the way to the main pool and the beach area. The main pool is almost like a massive L shape. It's really, really big and long, and there's tons of seating around it. There's chairs kind of in the water on a little ledge, chairs out of the water. There's a couple different like restaurant options right there. And then there's a kind of the most popular swim up bars right there at the bottom of the L. And that's kind of where a lot of people congregate. Like during the day, it's pretty busy, a lot of people chit-chatting. I think there was like volleyball there at one point. What'd you just share, Katie?
The live feed of the pool you're talking about that you can go and look at on the website.
Oh my gosh, Katie shared a live feed of the pool. So we'll put that in the show notes. If you just need a little escape, you can go see what's happening at the Atelier pool. That's amazing. I didn't even know they had that.
Yeah.
And then right near that main pool is a little wooden bridge. It's really cute and it's kind of strung up with Edison lights, and that goes over into the beach. And the beach area, I wouldn't say it's massive, but it's big enough because some of these all-inclusives can have small little beaches or big beaches. I would say this one's kind of medium. There's a lot of super tall palm trees. The first day we got there, I think there was like a wedding going on because there was a lot of strung up lights that were really pretty. There's a lot of seating, different little cabana areas, lots of just different seating options, some hammocks by the water. And yes, our MVP with child Whitney would get up early and would go all the way to the beach, and her little baby bump would drag all these chairs, which I think some mornings the staff would say, "Here, let me help you with that." And she'd like claim our spot, take a picture and be like, "Meet me here," which was amazing. So thank you, Whit. Okay, let's move on to food. So we'll talk through some of the places we ate and how the dinner reservations worked. Dinner reservations was a bit stressful, so I just want to let you guys know. You cannot make a reservation in advance except for this super fancy restaurant called Maria Dolores, which is like won all these awards, but it's not in the all-inclusive and it's really expensive. So we decided not to dine there because it just felt like one extra cost and we didn't make a reservation there, but that one you can make in advance. Otherwise, you have to wait till you get to the resort and you have to visit these kiosks. One tip that we ran into, you could really only make reservations for 2 or 4. So we would have to get 2 people to make 2 reservations. I remember. And then when we got there, we would have to ask them to like move our tables together. So if you're thinking about a trip with like 4 people, you're going to be golden. But more than that, it's a little bit like, okay, you make a reservation for 4, I'll make a reservation for 2. They do get you together, but that part, I remember being like, why can't we make a reservation for 6? And again, Atelier, if you're listening, that would be really helpful. The other thing I wanted to touch on before we talk about actual food is there was like this random wine rule, which maybe this is common at all-inclusives, I don't know. A glass of wine was included in the all-inclusive price, but a bottle wasn't. So at restaurants, we'd be like, 10 glasses of wine. Like we just kept like ordering all these glasses of wine, and we were like, it's the same thing, but you had to pay extra if you ordered a bottle. And then Whit, why don't you share about, Whit did get a lot of mocktails, and I think you were pretty pleased with them. So what were some of the mocktails you ordered?
I remember, so right when we got there, again, like I believe it was Danae was saying that they give you this drink while you're checking in. And I remember like making a beeline to the bar and I ordered like a mocktail Paloma because that's like one of my favorite drinks. And I think I was like 4 months pregnant. So it was like, depending on what I wore, kind of like showed the bump or not. And I remember the bartender right off the bat, he was like, "Oh, you don't want a virgin or you don't want a mocktail. Let's do the real thing." I was like, no, like I kind of have to, like, I don't have a choice. But they were really great moving forward because it's not that they were like pressuring me to get like a real one, but I think they were just like, "Oh, no, you're good." Like maybe she doesn't know it's included. So anyway, besides that, I think I got a Paloma like 3 times every day. They were phenomenal. It was like real fresh grapefruit juice. But yeah, the Palomas were spot on.
Love it. So like most all-inclusives, there's a lot of different restaurants with like different cuisines or whatever. The restaurant we ate at the most was called Suspiro, and it's right by the main pool, and it's really pretty. Like it's very modern again and zen, and they served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you could go there any time of day. We had breakfast there one day. They also had like a lot of ceviches and tacos and that sort of thing. So that was one of the main restaurants.
I do feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelsey, but I do remember thinking that since it was my first all-inclusive experience, I had never been to one before, thinking kind of like you could get anything you wanted any time of day type of thing. But I remember you and me, since we were like kid-free, we would like snooze and sleep in.
We were on our own schedule.
Yeah, we were on our own schedule, and then we would wake up.
We were not at the gym.
No. And like 10:30 or 11 would roll around, and then we'd be ready for breakfast. And we would try to go get breakfast, but they'd be closed. And they'd be
Yes.
flipping the restaurant, getting it ready for lunch. And we could never get breakfast because we were like, well, shoot.
And then we wanted lunch at like 2 because, and then that,
Yeah.
so they definitely flipped most of the restaurants. So you should try to eat in normal eating windows because if you don't, it can be kind of hard to find food if you don't like go to one of the buffets, which might have even still been being flipped. I don't remember. I just remember every time we tried to go to a restaurant, they were like, we're closed.
Yes.
Danae, did you have something?
Suspiro is the restaurant that Kelsey just talked about, is located really close to the pool and the beach. One hot tip for that one is that you must wear real shoes to the restaurant because it is a nice dining environment, but because it is adjacent to the pool, you think, okay, I could just walk in there, even if you have a cover up, but walk in there and sit down and have something to eat. They will literally kick you out if you don't have shoes on. That happened. I joined Whitney for, I think, a lunch or a breakfast. And they came up and they told me I had to leave because I didn't have shoes on because I had just walked on the beach.
Which does feel aggressive for like any sort of resort that's poolside, like a poolside restaurant. You're like, why? That was an issue, shoes. And also, you couldn't like take out because I remember Wit, obviously, she was with child. So she would be like, I actually kind of need to eat or I'm going to pass out. Meanwhile, the rest of us were just like drinking white wine. She was like, can I get a pizza to go? And they were like, no. So it was also, you couldn't like carry out food, which felt a little tricky. You had to like sit down in normal eating windows with shoes on. You could order to the beach, but often that would take a really long time. Like once we ordered a bunch of quesadillas and some drinks, and I think it was like an hour and a half later that it came. So that was place your order well in advance. So Suspiro was good though. I remember the first when we first got there and we just needed a little snack. It was like 4 p.m. and we weren't going to dinner till later. And there were like all these different ceviches. And we were like, ooh, which one should we get? And Danae was like, get them all. Like we can. And so that was kind of fun, just to be like one of each and just try them all. The first night we went to the Italian restaurant called Cilento, which I remember being super cute. It had like a black and white checkered floor and lots of pink furniture and just like a really kind of cool Italian vibe. And that's where they will come out with that huge Parmesan wheel where they make your pasta tableside and they like light it on fire and put all this Parmesan in it and serve it to you. I remember that being quite delicious. We also had a sushi night, which was really good. The sushi was quite lovely. We went to the steakhouse one night, Abrazos, which was delicious steak. And I think someone even got lamb because I have a picture of someone's lamb chop. That was you, Whit? Yeah, lots of good food. Every night, it seemed we would end up at this place called Cielo, which means sky. So everyone would just call it the Sky Bar. It's kind of up above and it has an infinity pool. Now, during the day, this Sky Bar is reserved for people who book the like premium rooms. They're called Inspira. We did not book Inspira rooms. Our travel agent had tried to get me to, but I didn't want to like up everybody's cost. Inspira rooms come with a couple perks, one of them being that you can visit these more VIP places during the day. I don't think we missed anything. I kind of liked being at the main pool and the beach during the day and hitting up Cielo at night. It felt like a fun night vibe. They had a huge big bar that you could go around the all sides of, like plexiglass walls. So you could really see way out into the resort and it was facing the ocean. And then these super cool little areas that you could sit down in that almost looked like it'd be like a little fire pit, but it was plexiglass walls to the pool. So it was almost like you were like sitting in the pool, but you were dry. It was kind of like a cool place to chill.
And something to note, I'm like a big cocktail girl. I like cocktails. And that was one of the only places, I think, in the resort that you could actually get a cocktail. The rest of the resort was wine and beer, and maybe mocktails. I don't know where Whitney was ordering these mocktails.
I feel like
from.
wine and beer and like the typical, like a pina colada or like a blended drink or something, but not like a bunch of different. There were two places, I think, Al. It was the Sky Bar, and then there's this bar called Calle, Calle, which means street. And it was that main walkway with all the pretty Edison lights strung up that we would kind of sit at that bar area some nights.
And those were the only two places where you could order cocktails that weren't your typical pina colada.
And probably that main bar at the very front in the lobby, but I don't know that we like saw that again after the first check-in. Allie did. So it was funny. The cocktail game, they do have some like proper cocktail servers that are in like cute little cocktail aprons and kind of make a show of shaking up their martini shakers and pouring from a really long distance and kind of doing the whole show. But it was funny because somehow Danae kept ordering these like beautiful, delicious cocktails because she likes a proper cocktail too. Then Allie would try to get it and hers would be like purple. And she'd be like, wait, that's not what I ordered. You're like, how are you getting these cocktails? So Allie got a lot of random cocktails, but they tried their best.
They were still delicious.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great. I've been to a couple of all-inclusives, and I think the food kind of stood out to me. At least maybe I was like hyper-focused on the food. But I remember at Suspiro, the chips and guac was just amazing. Like you couldn't beat it. I remember I was literally looking through pictures on my phone. I've got 14 pictures of chips and guac. Just probably from myself. But I remember the chips being like homemade chips and not just like, your traditional Tostitos or whatever, but the guac was so fresh. And then the fish tacos that we got, I think we got like or somebody got them every day because I have a couple pictures of those too. So yeah, the main restaurant by the pool was really consistent and great.
Yeah, I think for an all-inclusive, the food was pretty top-notch, which is something to look forward to. There was a buffet that was fine. I think we only ate there like once for like a breakfast. It was fine, but the nice thing about this one is there's really only one, so you can eat at restaurants the entire time if you want to. Allie?
I remember us being a little suspicious about the sushi reservation that we made, thinking that it wasn't going to be very good, and us being like really impressed with how delicious that meal was.
Yeah, I have videos of the sushi, and that was also a really fun night because we all got like super dressed up and took like cute pictures. And there's a lot of like great photo ops around this resort for like girl pics. So that's kind of fun too. Okay, let's move into entertainment. So the spa was really fun for one day. Katie, I know you got lost and that was an extra 2 hours of your day, but I think everybody enjoyed all their treatments. They actually have a really fun water circuit that comes with all of the treatments, or you can just book a day pass. And this is where you get to go into like a steam room where they gave us cucumbers for our eyes. I think it's like a eucalyptus steam room. There was a sauna, and then there's like a cold plunge tub, which I have videos of us all doing, which is super impressive. And also like a cold bucket shower. You kind of go hot, cold, hot, cold. So that was a fun little experience to do. There's a spa pool. There's not much to it, but there is a long, skinny spa pool that you can sit outside by in quiet. And then there's one of those big water circuits inside as well that has all the pressure point things. These are like super popular now at all-inclusive, specifically in Mexico. So Danae and I kind of like had fun doing all the little pressure point water circuit, which was fun. Also, the spa, when you first walk in, it's very pretty. There's like a massive winding staircase. It's large and modern and zen. So the spa in general is like a good feeling spa. Sometimes spas can be smaller. This one was like a great spa.
I remember I opted out because I was like, I'll just go sit by the beach while y'all do that this day. And you were like, no, look, just come and see if they'll like throw you in something, whether it was just like the heated pool. And they were like very complimentary. They were like, oh yeah, I think I spent like an hour and a half in that like long pool that you were talking about. And it was really pretty. I was looking through a picture just a minute ago. It's all like glass too, so you can see outside. So it's not like this dark kind of secluded place. So that was very nice of them just to like throw me in the mix.
And that is extra. The spa treatments you have to book separate, and you can book in advance through their website. It's called like the NUUP, NUUP Spa.
The other thing I would just like to mention, just because I feel like I go to a lot of different spas if I am on vacation, it was very clean, which I feel like is just an important factor to kind of mention. Super clean. And my massage was very quality. I think sometimes it can get a little commercialized when you're at these super big, large resorts, but I had a really, really lovely massage. And that mixed with just the vibe of the whole place. Again, going back to the grounds thing, it's large and massive, which means the spa is large and massive too. So you feel like you have space. And even though we all wanted to be together, if you did want to be by yourself in a little couch looking out into the greenery, just kind of zoning out, you were able to do that.
Okay, another thing we did, which was kind of on a whim and unexpected, was parasailing. I'm not sure. Katie, you can speak to this because you're the one who did it, but we were all on the beach just chilling. And I want to say this was a company that wasn't affiliated with the resort, which looking back, had I not had white wine flowing through my system, I'm not sure I would have been like, yeah, let's get on that boat with those dudes who are requiring $50 a person. But we thought it was a really good idea at the time. So which we also wanted to get on the water. I love getting on the water when you can on a trip. And so that felt like the easiest way. So we paid cash to some dudes on the beach to get on a boat, and they took us, the only two that would dare to parasail in Mexico, Katie and Sarah. And what was it like, Katie?
Do the adventure. It's so fun. And actually carrying through with our calm, relaxing vibe. Once you're up in the sky, half hooked into this harness thing with like no seat, and you're just like, please stay click together. It's very calm and relaxing and quiet. Sarah and I had a lovely little trip. I actually think I've been parasailing before, I think when I was maybe 9. So, I mean, it was so fun to actually do a little bit of an adventure. And I do feel like it was relatively okay priced. It was like $50 a person. I felt like that was a pretty good deal. As long as you're clicked in, you're good. I've been skydiving and I went on a hot air balloon ride in Mexico. So I felt like parasailing was like, this is going to be totally fine. So I think do the activities if they're available on the beach. The other thing I wanted to mention about the beach, I don't know if you all remember this, but we kind of would sit by these cabanas. And the other nice thing about the beach is they have these little pathways that lay over the sand because the sand gets really hot. And so that's really helpful as you're walking out to the cabanas. And then there's kind of a little nature area to the side of the beach. And then there's this lovely sign going back to safety in Mexico. And it's like, after you walk past this moment, the hotel cannot cover you or something
Yeah,
like
we're
that.
not responsible for you if you, because we both, a lot of us were like, we're going to walk the beach like you do. And there are signs that are like, warning, you are now not our property anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, they're very clear where the boundaries are.
And there was a guy standing on the beach with an automatic weapon, which is a little like, oh, hey, you kind of want to ignore it. But
Yeah.
it would, for me, even though I don't love seeing that, it did make me feel like the resort takes safety very seriously,
Totally.
and they're like going to take care of us. So that felt
Yep.
good.
Yep.
And I know I joked about the parasailing, but I feel like in general, they were like super professional, super kind to us, let us bring like our drinks on board. Like we had a really fun time being on the water. You guys had a fun time parasailing. So I would say that company that sits there, we felt A-okay with. And then one night, most nights we would go up to the Sky Bar, but one night we stumbled into like a discotheque. Do you guys remember this? And we like danced a little bit. There's,
It was the club.
the club. Yeah. At all these all-inclusives, there's like some sort of like a silent disco or something going on every night. And it was fine. I remember at one point, Sarah,
I
who's not on
remember-
the call, was trying to change the music because we didn't like the music. And we thought if we can just get to the music source.
She like got lost trying to like get to the
Backstage.
DJ behind backstage. And then like someone was teaching Danae how to twerk.
I don't remember that. I love that Danae left the call for work and now we're like talking about her twerking.
She was taking it very seriously, these lessons.
Amazing. Yeah, this room doubled as like an entertainment stage. So maybe they did some stage performances sometime. I'm not sure, but it was just kind of like a dance party. We weren't loving the music. We thought if we can just get to the music source, we can turn this party up a notch. And so Sarah was looking, and then some hotel staff member was like, ma'am, you have to get away from backstage.
I do think there was also like a silent disco going on. So we didn't participate in it, but that
I think it was in that
another
same room, a
group,
different night, which I've done those with my kids. It's fun with kids, but I don't know if like a bunch of 40-year-olds need to be like partying to Justin Timberlake with our headphones on.
Yeah, we didn't talk about really how there was this. Did we talk about there's an app that you can,
No, we
it was
didn't.
really helpful. Every morning you could kind of see what was going on in the hotel that day. Like I think they offered yoga in the gym and stuff like that. And there was a map on the app, which wasn't super helpful, but it was there for you to
Yeah,
use.
you do want the app once you get there. And I think you like can't even get into it until you arrive. I remember wanting to check it in advance and I couldn't get it to work until we arrived.
I remember since it was my first all-inclusive experience, not realizing that we tipped a lot while we were there. Everything, someone had brought a lot of like small bills. And I remember we were like tipping the go-kart drivers, and I don't even remember who else we were tipping, but I
Like
felt
the
like
beach
we were
attendant, like
tipping
who
a
would,
lot.
yeah, bring us drinks and stuff. Because we had
Mhm.
one guy that was very helpful. I forget his name. He was like kind of overweight and running the whole day, and he was just dripping sweat. And we were like, thank you so much. Katie was like, we've got to give him a really big tip. But yeah, I do think at any kind of out of the country type resort like this, it is helpful to bring a bunch of 1s or 5s so that you can tip people throughout your stay. So I always love to talk about like a typical day on one of these trips. What was kind of nice is we'd all wake up at different times. Like we talked about, like this is a good place for a lot of people. You can all be together or you can kind of separate at different times of the day. So everybody would wake up at different times. Like Danae was up at the gym, Whit was down enjoying the beach. Sometimes she would get a coffee and go sit in one of the hammocks and just enjoy like the beach before it got a little rowdy and save some of our chairs. Allie and I were sleeping until 10 a.m. But so everybody could kind of wake up at different times. We could meet for breakfast, or some people did their own thing, which was kind of nice. Then we would all kind of find each other at the beach or the pool and just enjoy the sun for a little while. We'd like read or chit chat or, tell stories because we hadn't all been together in so long. And for some of us, it was like the first time meeting each other. So that was all really fun. And then we'd like go find a place for lunch. And it was just kind of like nice because we could just kind of we could all be together or we could kind of separate. And then we would kind of like wrap it up around 4 or 5, all go back to our rooms, like shower, spend some time getting ready. Allie and I would order more room service. And then we'd all meet up for our restaurant reservation wherever we were going that night. So that was kind of like our typical day. Okay, so we have a lot of people here. So I'm just going to kind of ask the group in general the same question I ask at the end of every podcast. If someone out there is considering Atelier Playa Mujeres, what is it about this all-inclusive that would make you say, just book it?
I would say it's very accommodating for whatever stage of life you're in or whatever season or whatever group you're with. It's not just like focused on like a couples trip or anything like that, or a couples location. So it's very accommodating across the board.
Something I would piggyback on that with is that if you were going for like a couples trip, I feel like it would be a really nice resort to just get a little bit of rest and relaxation. And it might be even easier to navigate just as like a duo. I did see a handful of couples there, and you could easily make these restaurant reservations for 2 people. You probably wouldn't get lost as much because you'd just be together the whole time. So I feel like it could make for a really nice couples trip, or like a group of 4. It might be a nice trip for that.
I would say book it because if you are somebody who lives in a northern city that is cold, you basically step into paradise. It's lush, it's beautiful, the drinks are flowing, the service is great, the food is wonderful, and you're on the beach just enjoying time with good girlfriends. So do the trip, book the parasail, eat all the things, and have a ball.
Love it. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here. This was too much fun, and I'm ready to book another trip somewhere beautiful and sunny with you all right now. Speaking of beautiful and sunny, make sure you are subscribed so that you are notified when next week's episode about Secret's Akumal actually means home of the sea turtles, drops. It's an adult-only resort in this same area, known for its gorgeous beach and, like I said, sea turtles. So I'll talk to you then on the next episode of Trip Tales. That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.